Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parsha Shir on Sefer Netivot Shalom. This week's Parsha of Noach, Netivot Shalom, has an interesting essay which ties together some of the stories in this Parsha as well as the previous Parsha of Bereshis, analyzing how they are the appropriate introduction to the entirety of the Torah and the entirety of Sefer Bereshis as a whole. It says, Bereshis HaTorah HaKadosha Ksuvim Kama Parshios Shel Chataim HaKadmonim. If you take a look at it, the first stories of Bereshis are actually all stories of mistakes, of failures, of sin. Chet Eitz Hadas, Cheto Shel Kayin, Dor HaMabul, V'Dor HaFlaga. The first four sins are the sin of the Eitz Hadas, the sin of Kain killing Hevel, the sin of the Dor HaMabul, when the whole world gets destroyed, and after the world is recreated, the sin of the Dor HaFlaga, which builds the Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Bavel. V'tzarech biur. Why are all these stories of grave sins that go to destroy the entirety of the world and change the course of human history? Why are these recorded in the Torah at all? Especially if the Torah is supposed to be a book that teaches us the proper ways of life. Why begin the whole book about the proper ways of life by teaching us about the mistakes, about the sins? L'lamed leYehudi is Taryag mitzvos darchei avodas Hashem. The purpose of the Torah is to teach us 613 mitzvos, the ways of serving God. Ma'anu lomdim in parshios elu. What can we learn from these parshios about these sins? V'imchet eitz hadas nogeh l'chlalus Yisrael l'chlalus habriya shekol habriya mitzapeh l'tikun hapgam hazeh u'muvan madua nichtav b'Torah aval cheto shel Kain af kinora ma'od l'shem ma nichtav b'Torah v'chein yesh lomar gam min chet Dor HaMabul Dor HaFlaga. Maybe, he says, you could claim that there's a reason why the sin of the Eitz Hadas is recorded in this book. Because, after all, there is a relationship between the sin of the Eitz Hadas and the entirety of human history, of humanity, of the created world. It changed and altered our nature as human beings. The fact that they sinned of the Eitz Hadas, the fact that as a punishment we receive the fact that we have to work for our food, the fact that we have to toil in the world, all of that is a result of the Eitz Hadas. So we're supposed to understand our world and how we struggle to keep the Taryag mitzvahs in our world that we exist in. Maybe as a preamble, we need to know the Chet of the Eitz Hadas to understand how we got here. But the other ones, the sin of Kain and Hevel, the sin of Dor HaFlaga, Dor HaMabul, why are those related to our understanding of how to properly live in the world? The answer, he says, is as follows. V'yesh lomar ha'inyan di'ine gimal chataim elo hayu kodem Lahofas olam hatikun ha'or hagadol shel Avram Avinu. All of these sins existed in the world before the great light of perfection, the great light of fixing, the great light of hope and positivity arrives, embodied by the person of Avram Avinu. Shebebeiz alafim arishonim shel bria yu kol hazman chatayim ubiur bazeh ki kein yasser HaKadosh Baruch Hu es kol seder ha'bria be'ofen shel chashucha v'hader nehura. What we can see by the fact that the Torah included these stories, by the fact that the Torah highlights for the first 10 generations of humanity, all we saw is sin after sin, mistake after mistake, before the arrival of Avram Avinu. Now, Avram Avinu's arrival doesn't mean there's no more mistakes or sins, but Avram's arrival heralds a time of light, of hope, of tikkun, of fixing, of direction, of positive direction towards what we're supposed to be accomplishing in the world, towards the goal of what the Torah is trying to teach us as a way of avodas Hashem. So what we learned from this structure, the Torah included the description of these 10 generations, and then the appearance of Avram Avinu, is that the Torah is built and structured the way the world is built and structured, of chashucha v'hader nehura, of first darkness and then light. Vahi Erev, Vahi Boker. We see that embedded in the story of creation. Whole story is creation. Vahi Erev, Vahi Boker. First comes darkness, and then comes light. Mikodem hachoshech, ve'achar kach mitoch hachoshech bokeh ha'or. The structure of the world is such that light emerges from amidst the darkness. V'chein ba'avodas Hashem. What that's trying to teach us, the fact that the first stories of Bereshis are all about sin, and then you see the appearance of Avraham Avinu is to teach us that the world is structured of chashucha v'hader nehura, that light comes from amidst the darkness, in order to teach us the lesson of avodas Hashem. That the whole way we serve God is first by eliminating the darkness, and from the midst of darkness emerging to light of aseh tov, of doing good. So in fact, this structure of Sefer Bereshis is not a waste. It is related to our understanding of Taryag Mitzvahs, our understanding of Avodas Hashem. It is the perfect preamble to the Torah that tries to teach us the positive way, is to teach us the darkness that comes first, to show us that in our own lives, as we struggle with Avodas Hashem, the way it will most often appear for us is the way that it appeared in the entire structure of the world. Av chashucha v'hader nehura. First being in darkness, in mistake, in tragedy sometimes, and then little bits of light that emerge from amidst that darkness towards a perfected life, towards a perfected world. The structure of human effort, the structure of human Avodas Hashem is paralleled after the structure of the global creation of the world, Vayi'er Vayiboker, and creation of humanity, sin, 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 and then light. That's why the Torah introduces these stories first. שהעולם התיקון הסכם אברהם אבינו שתיקן את העולם מנס החסד שלו, ואחר כך תיקן יצחק במנס הגבורה ויעקב מנס תפארת, שגימל עמוד העולם אלו הם כנגד גימל אדומים שהעולם עומד עליהם, על התורה עבודה וגמילות חסדים. Slowly we see after Avraham Avinu that the tikkuns emerge. First the tikkun of Avraham with the midah of Chesed, then the tikkun of Yitzchak with the midah of Gvura, then the tikkun of Yaakov with the midah of Tiferes, which each of those three parallel the three pillars on which we believe the world stands: Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasadim. Gemilas Chasadim is the pillar of Avraham, who is the epitome of Chesed. Yitzchak is the pillar of Avodah. Yaakov is the pillar of Torah. And therefore, we see that really the tikkun brought about them are the pillars that hold up the world. The structure of the world is parallel to the structure of the Avos, which is parallel to the structure of every Jew in their struggles of Avodas Hashem. But amidst the darkness emerges the tikkun that goes in all these three areas of concentration. Bekodem shehischel olam hatikun hayu gimel chatayim haniskarim bebchinas chashucha v'hadar nehura. The three sins that are described in the beginning of the Torah are each corrected by one of these three avos, one of these three pillars that then emerge amidst the darkness. Here's how it goes. Three sins, forgetting Eitz Hadas, because that's a global sin which is relevant to teaching us why we're in the situation we're in, but Kayin, Dor HaMabul, and Dor HaFlaga. Here's how he explains it. Netivot Shalom says that the stories of sin are the preface to the appearance of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, not just because in a general way, the Torah is trying to teach us that the mode of Avodas Hashem is Chashucha v'Hadar Nehura, darkness and then light, but also in a very specific way to teach us that the tikkun of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and those midos which we continue to follow, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, Torah, Avodah, and Gemilos Chasadim, are specifically a tikkun for the three sins that came before. Inyan Gimel Chataim Elu, the idea of those three sins in specific, Hukama Amar Chazal, parallel the words of our sages in Pirkei Avos, Kina, Taiva, V'kavod, Motzim es ha'adam min ha'olam. That jealousy, lust, and honor are the things that remove a person from the world. Shegimel Pagamim Elu hem ha'piganim ha'geruim biyoser she'ein ha'olam yachol lisbolosam v'hem motzim es ha'adam min ha'olam. These are the three worst midos, the worst traits, the traits the world cannot stomach, cannot swallow. And therefore, if you've become entrenched in them, you don't deserve a place in the world, or you don't achieve a place in the world. You're removed from the world. Harishonu Akina. The first is jealousy. That's the first sin recorded in the Torah. The sin of Cain killing Hevel. The whole root of that sin is the jealousy, the kina, the Cain experienced towards Hevel, which led him to the position of killing Hevel, which led him to losing his share in the world. So kina is number one. Number two, Chet Dor HaMabul, the sin of the generation of the flood, Inyano Taiva. That all begins, if you look carefully at the story, later it emerges as Hamas, as Gezela, of stealing things, of trying to rob each other, infringement on each other's rights and properties. But he says, if you look at the beginnings of the story of the Dor HaMabul, it all begins with Taiva, lust. Ki hishchis kol basar dar kol haaretz, kemamar maran b'beis Avraham, zchus yagen aleinu, shehischilas hapgam haita mistaklios asuros, v'yiru b'nei ha'elokim es benos ha'adam. Pasuk says that the b'nei Elokim, whoever those were looking at the benos ha'adam. There was a breach of modesty between, in this case, the Bnei Elokim and Benos Ha'adam, but in a general sense, Torah is trying to tell us that in that society in general, there was a breach of modesty. And of course, we see that in the Midah stone, which comes later. But even in the Dor HaMabul, this Midah existed, the Midah of Taiva, of lust after others, which breaks down the barriers of modesty. That's number 2. Number 3, Achar Kach Ne'amar Chet Dor HaFlaga. Then there's, of course, the Dor HaFlaga, Hatofes Gam Kan Makom Nirchav Batorah Shehabagam Ugias V'Kavod. The whole challenge, the whole mistake of the Dor HaFlaga, of the building of Migdal Bavel, was related to kavod, to honor. Kamosha Nichtav Hava Nivne Lanu Iru Migdal V'Rosho B'Shamayim V'Naseh Lanu Shem. The whole idea of building the tower was to have the tallest tower in the world, a tower that would reach the heavens, to be able to make for themselves a name. Hainu Shaita Zo Aklipa Shel Kavod. It all emerged from a desire for kavod, for honor. Shematarasam Haita Rosho B'Shamayim V'Naseh Lanu Shem. The idea was to make themselves great, to aggrandize themselves. The Kasvas of Satorah Lahoros Adecha Magia Godel HaPagam Shelo Haya Lahem Shum Tikun Vayafetz Hashem Utam Misham Al Pnei Kol Aretz. There's no way the Torah could stomach any of these sins of Cain, of Dor HaMagol, Dor HaFlaga. All of them were completely dispersed, completely changed in terms of where they were situated in the course of life. There was no way the Torah or Hashem could stomach the existence of these 3 midos, just like Chazal say, Kina v'Taiva v'Kavod, Motziim es ha'adam min ha'olam. The original question we came to is, why does the Torah speak about these 3 sins? Is the preamble, if the Torah is a book that shows to teach us the positive ways of living life? Well, says Netivot Shalom, that's exactly why the Torah taught us about these 3 sins, because these 3 sins represent the antithesis of Orchos Chaim, the ways that a person will never achieve proper life in the world, the basic building blocks a person needs to be at ground zero, to be at neutral, to then be able to build themselves in Avodas Hashem, is to eliminate Kina, Taiva, V'Kavod. They are the 3 sins that begin the story of the Torah to teach us Orchos Chaim, to teach us the way to live, to teach us that people with these 3 sins, Cain, Dor HaMabul, Dor HaFlaga, cannot exist in the world. They are like oil and water. They just can't exist. The world can't stomach them, can't swallow them. They can't exist in the world in a way that they could then even fix themselves or bring themselves to greater levels of Avodas Hashem. Only after we learn that can we learn about the great light brought about by Avram Avinu into the world. The great fixing of the darkness that begins with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who come to address these 3 places, these 3 traits that were lacking in the world. Avram, with his chesed, addresses, number 1, the sin of kina, of jealousy. Instead of wanting what other people have, you learn to give to other people what they don't have. Gvilus chasadim. Yitzchak, with his midah of gvura, with his midah of avoda, fixes the world of taiva. Instead of desiring and lusting after other things, you desire and lust after God. You have ways of channeling that towards greater service of God. And Yaakov, with his midah of Torah, comes to address the issue of kavod. Instead of aggrandizing yourself, you learn through the Torah to become humble, to become a person who takes and absorbs, to try to grow internally rather than grow externally with a shame. The 3 pillars that exist, Torah, Avodah, Gmilas, Chasadim, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, or Torah, are the ways that we learn to bring light into the darkness of Kina, Taiva, V'Kavod. The whole package deal of Sefer Bereshis, of these sins which are taught, and then the stories of the Avos and Imahos, are meant to show us Orchos Chaim. They're meant to show us the traits with which we cannot exist in the world, and the way to correct those traits with the traits that are brought about by Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They're meant to teach us that the general way of Avodas Hashem, of serving God, sometimes come with Chashucha v'Hadar Nehura, with sometimes seeing that darkness surrounds you, and that the ways of the world, the ways of your traits, the ways that you're engaged in, are not the best, they're not perfect, they're flawed, and they're the antithesis of what you need to be striving for in the world. And then slowly out of that darkness, little lights emerge as you begin to fix those midos, those traits, and rise in the levels of Avodas Hashem, teaching us the ultimate path of Orchos Chaim, the ultimate path of a successful life. May we all be incredibly engaged in this endeavor and successful in this endeavor. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.